The reason I adore the relationship between Gon and Killua is because it is the foundation of what makes Hunter x Hunter enjoyable. The tender care for each other mixed with their goofy innocence makes the two titular characters the show's best dynamic duos, beating that of Knuckle and Shoot, Hisoka and Illumi, and the great Meruem and Komugi. What makes Gon and Killua fascinating characters is that by the end of the Chimera Ant Arc, Gon's story has been a tragedy, and by the end of the Hunter election, Killua's story has been a redemption one. The catalyst for their stories is that their lowest point of the series highlights their arc. Killua's lowest point of the series comes near the beginning of the show but lies at the end of the series' first arc, the Hunter exam. Cast your memories back to the last exam for the Hunters, which was the tournament where Killua faces his older brother Illumi. Illumi mocks Killua for being weak and having friends, saying that killing should be the only thing he should worry about. This mental torture results in Killua killing Bodoro in the following match, eliminating Killua from the Hunter exam, who after killing Bodoro goes back to his home. While Gon's lowest point comes near the end of the show and at the end of the Chimera Ant Arc, Gon fighting Pito. Her resistance to fight Gon and instead heal Komugi was a confusing act that outraged Gon. How can this animal care and heal a human while also kill them for food? But it was when Pito explained to Gon that Kite could not be healed because he is already dead that tipped Gon's frustration to the point that his mental and physical limit had been reached. The resulting outcome was a horrifying transformation that saw our protagonist age by decades and brutally killing the feline Chimera Ant. It comes as no surprise that Killua's lowest point is at the start of the series while Gon's is near the end. This is because after Killua is rescued by Gon, it starts a chain reaction of events allowing him to redeem himself and be what he wants to be, not what his family wants him to be. While for Gon, his lowest is near the end of the show because his story is a tragedy that leads him to exploding with rage when he finally meets Pito. There is no doubt that Killua making a friend is something that was very special to him. We see throughout the series that Killua when younger wanted a friend he could play with, but because of the nature of his work, this became impossible. That is why when he found Gon in the Hunter exam and subsequently became friends with him, it was a special moment for him, and it was a proud one too. This is part of Killua's redemption because it is something that separates him from his family and past life. Being with Gon allowed him to reset his life and live a life he always wanted to do. That is why when he killed Bodoro in the Hunter exam and left to go home, Killua was at his lowest. He thought he had lost the one important thing he ever gained, a friend in Gon. Their friendship is what allowed Killua to become more trusting in others and gave him the opportunity to do good by being beside Gon. This journey of Killua became more apparent in the Chimera Ant Arc, where he became the support for a lot of the characters. He was there to protect Gon the first time they met Pito. He bonded with Akago, allowing the octopus to break away from the ant colony. He helped Palm remember who she was after she was transformed into a Chimera Ant, and he saved Shoot against the raging Yuppie. Killua by the end of that arc gained many more friends, from Lonely Assassin to Savior against the Ants, but this was only accomplished by the fact that Killua removed the restriction put on him by his older brother Illumi. That restriction had always been a hindrance in Killua's progression. This is because the curse put on him was to always, in a sick way, protect Killua. When Killua faces against opponents that are tougher than him or opponents that put him in doubt, his first reaction is to run. This has limited his fighting progression and even limited him from attaining new allies because he always fears the worst. It is as Biscay states to him, his instinct is to run. This idea for Killua to always take the easy option when against tougher opponents leads him in two occasions offering his life, then fight for it. In the York New Arc, Gon and Killua are hostages to the Spider Troop, and Killua is willing to sacrifice himself so Gon can escape. There is a reason for why Killua decided on that selfish decision. It is because he doesn't have a defined goal, unlike Gon, whose goal is to find his father. This leads to Killua wanting to sacrifice himself so Gon can live on and finish what he started. Killua sees this as a way out to end the hole he has that has been temporarily filled by Gon's ambitions. And there is also his fight against Ramot, where Killua was ready to sacrifice his life. Not because it was his only option, nor because it was the right option. Killua decided to sacrifice himself because it was the easy option. However, his bond with Gon was something that cannot be broken, and it is that relationship that made Killua remove Illumi's curse in order to save the nameless Gon. A major factor for Killua ready to sacrifice his own life is that he thought at the time he had nothing to lose when fighting Ramot, but that was something he could tell himself to make the pain of not having his own ambition disappear. During episode 37, Killua told Gon that he would help him find Jing until he can figure his own plan out. Remember, Killua was born into an assassin family and all he knew was that life. Following Gon allowed him to have a purpose. But it was only when he realised that to help Gon recover from his bad name that he did have a purpose, long before he even met Gon, and that was to protect Aluka, his younger sister. And this is where we see Killua's arc of redemption, from assassin to protector. In a way, Killua throughout the show was protecting Gon not only because of Gon's rash behaviour, but it was in reality that Gon was a placeholder until he realised what he truly needed protecting, his sister. We saw that in Battle Tower, where he protected Zushi from the deranged Nen fighters and to protecting his fellow hunters in the Chimera Ant Arc. Killua was always going to protect people, ironic for someone who was an assassin, and protecting Aluka is the pinnacle for his story. In a lot of ways, Killua's background is portrayed far more tragic in the show. We have characters like Biscuit even commenting on that fact. But in reality, the far more tragic story is that of Gon. With Killua, he had a family that did want to protect him and do what they thought was best for him. With Gon, he had no mother. He lived in an island where there were no other children, and his father left him to become a hunter. But Gon stayed positive, for better or worse. He found a mother in Mito, and instead of being angry with Jing for leaving him when he was a baby, Gon wanted to explore why he left to become a hunter. This positivity is what makes Gon so endearing, but it is what also breaks him at the end of the Chimera Ant Arc. When he met Kai and realised who he was and the connection he had with Jing, Kai at that moment became a father figure to him. During the Chimera Ant Arc, Kai told Gon many stories about Jing and how he was in a similar situation to Gon, having to search for Jing. Kai and Gon's connection to Jing was their bond, so to see him die was as real as watching his real father die. And we must not forget how much Kai meant to Jing, so much so Jing was willing to train him, and you can see that Gon knew their connection was close because the first thing he does when he meets Jing is to apologise for Kite's defeat. Kite was more than a mentor to Gon, and for Gon he was someone that was the closest to Jing, and that made him like family. But before Gon's rage at Kite's death, there was always a ticking time bomb inside him. No matter how positive someone can be, there is always a darker side that has to be released, and for Gon, it had been throughout the show that his ticking time bomb was counting down. The first instinct we see this is when he confronts Illumi for what he did to Killua at the Hunter exam final phase. Gon had no disregard with who he was dealing with, and Illumi could have easily killed him, but his connection with Killua was strong that the idea of Illumi taking him out was not even comprehended. Gon wanted an apology from Illumi, no matter the cost. That emotional pride from Gon is shown throughout the series, and even though it has helped him out in sticky situations, and is the major reason he has such a big impact on people, it can also be his downfall. And the closest he got to death because of this was when he fought Genthru. The battle against Genthru is still my favourite in the series because of how reckless Gon was. His rage with Genthru and his desire to beat him had exploded in this fight, so much so that trapping him was not enough. Gon had to prove that he was strong enough to defeat him. This pride left Gon using extreme tactics that meant he sacrificed his right hand. That reckless behaviour and instinct to rely on pure emotions without thinking about the consequences is what leads him to his freak rage against Pito. The moment Pito told Gon that Kite cannot be saved, Gon lost all control. Not from the outside, but from the inside. His pent-up rage made him believe he was the one that caused Kite's demise. This guilt had been shown throughout the arc, from when he cried because he couldn't enter NGL by losing to Shoot, but more prominently when he allowed the controlled Kite to beat him. Gon knew every move Kite was going to make, but allowed to be hit. And I see that as Gon's apology because he knew saying sorry meant nothing, and at least this way, Gon could feel something. And in the end, Gon exploded with rage and unleashed Nen that had the condition of death, because for Gon, losing Kite became the worst possible outcome. Gon's life isn't easy. Because he smiles every day and finds the positive doesn't mean he is happy. Killua states that Gon shines brightly the day after Peter attacked Kite. That doesn't mean Gon is happy. Gon had no mother but had to find one in Mito. Gon had no father and found one in Kite, who was defeated by Peter. Gon is searching for a man who left him as a child. Of course, he would eventually burst. Gon just needed a catalyst. But here's the thing, this doesn't make Jing a bad father, nor does it make Gon's life sad. Because Jing says something very profound that puts his actions into context. Jing says to Gon that he must enjoy life's detours. Jing leaving Gon as a child meant that Gon had to learn the hard way. He had to explore the world to get answers, and even though the ultimate goal was for Gon to find Jing, it was Jing's goal to make his son explore the world and live in it. That experience led Gon to becoming a licensed hunter and attaining wonderful friends through experiences he may never have thought possible. And one of those experiences led him to meet Killua, a child going nowhere, but because they both met, they both became stronger and both reached their goals. In the end, the story of Gon and Killua is exactly what Jing said. Enjoy life's detours, because that's where your true journey begins.